Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Earth's Hope and watched the stars change. His ship had just crossed an invisible line in space that humans had not crossed for over 200 years. This line marked the edge of what aliens called the quarantine zone. Earth and all human colonies lay behind this boundary, trapped like animals in a cage. Jake felt his heart beat faster as he looked at the control panel. The readings were clear. They had done it. They had broken free from the prison that had held humanity since 2156. That was when the aliens first found Earth and decided humans were too dangerous to roam free in the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Carter sat at her station, listening to alien radio signals. Her face went pale as she heard the messages flooding the communication networks. Emergency broadcasts came from every direction. Alien governments were calling their fleets home. Military commanders were shouting orders to prepare for war. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly, "they know we're out. The whole galaxy knows." Jake nodded. He had expected this reaction. For over 2 centuries, the Galactic Council had told their people that humans were violent and unpredictable. They said humans needed to stay locked away until they learned to behave properly. What they really meant was that they were afraid of what humans might do. The first alien empire to respond was the Zephyrians. These proud warriors had ruled their part of space for thousands of years. They believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. When they heard that humans had escaped their quarantine, they immediately sent war fleets toward human space. Commander Pete Hughes called Jake from the communication room. "Sir, we're getting reports from our spy satellites. 12 different alien fleets are moving toward us. The Zephyrians, the Valdorians, even the ancient Nixari are mobilizing their ships." Jake walked over to the main viewing screen. Space looked peaceful from here, but he knew that somewhere out there, thousands of alien warships were heading toward Earth. The question was whether they came to fight or to force humans back into their cage. On a massive space station orbiting the neutral world of Centrum Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in the Great Chamber. The station itself was larger than most human cities, and it had been the center of galactic government for over 1,000 years. Ambassador Kalara of the Zephyrians stood before the assembly. Her species looked like large reptiles that walked on 2 legs. Their scales were dark green, and their eyes glowed yellow when they were angry. Right now, Kalara's eyes blazed like small suns. "Members of the council," she began, her voice echoing through the chamber. "The day we have long feared has come. The humans have broken containment. They have left their quarantine zone and entered civilized space." Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembly. Many species remembered the reports. They had read about human behavior during the quarantine period. Humans fought wars among themselves. They destroyed their own environment. They created weapons that could kill millions of their own kind. "We must act quickly," Kalara continued. "Human history shows us what they are capable of. They are violent, aggressive, and they adapt too quickly to new situations. If we allow them to spread across the galaxy, they will bring chaos and destruction wherever they go." Minister Yalaseth of the Valdorian Federation rose to speak. The Valdorians were a peaceful species that looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and large eyes. They preferred to solve problems through discussion rather than fighting. "While I understand the ambassador's concerns," Yalaseth said in a calm voice, "we must remember that humans have been contained for over 2 centuries. Perhaps they have learned to control their violent nature during this time." Kalara laughed, a harsh sound that made several smaller species shiver. "Control their nature? Our surveillance reports show that humans have built thousands of colonies within their quarantine zone. They have spread across dozens of star systems. They have continued to develop new weapons and technologies. If anything, they have become more dangerous, not less." High Counselor Vextar of the Nixari Collective listened to the debate with ancient eyes. The Nixari were the oldest known species in the galaxy. They had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. Their bodies were made of crystalline structures that glowed with inner light. When Vextar spoke, everyone listened. "The question before us," Vextar said slowly, "is not what humans were, but what they have become. We have kept them isolated for 200 years. In that time, what have they learned? What have they become? We know very little about current human society. Back on Earth's Hope, Jake watched his crew work at their stations. These men and women represented the best of humanity. They were scientists, explorers, and dreamers. They had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment when humans would finally reach the stars beyond their prison. Dr. Carter looked up from her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting alien ships approaching our position. Long-range sensors show at least 20 vessels heading our way." Jake felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This would be humanity's first real contact with alien civilizations since the quarantine began. The aliens who first contacted Earth had been diplomats and scientists. These ships were military vessels sent to stop human expansion into the galaxy. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. "About 6 hours at their current speed," Carter replied. Jake turned to address his crew. "Listen, everyone, we're about to make history. These aliens have kept us locked away because they fear us. They think we're nothing but violent savages who will destroy everything we touch. We have a chance to show them they're wrong." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Burke sat in her office deep beneath the planet's surface. She had been preparing for this day since she took office 5 years ago. Hidden across the solar system were shipyards and bases that the aliens knew nothing about. Humanity had not been idle during their quarantine. "Mr. President," said General Tony Walsh as he entered the room, "our deep space fleet is ready to launch on your order. We have over 200 ships prepared for peaceful contact with alien civilizations." President Burke nodded. "Give the order, General. It's time for humanity to take its place among the stars." As alarm bells rang across alien space and emergency meetings convened on a dozen worlds, Jake Morrison and his crew waited in the darkness between stars. Soon they would meet their first aliens as free humans. The galaxy would never be the same. War Commander Thaxel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Claw, and studied the human vessel on his viewing screen. The ship looked strange compared to Zephyrian designs. Where alien ships were built for pure function and intimidation, this human craft seemed to balance beauty with purpose. Its hull gleamed white and blue, and it moved through space with an almost graceful motion. "Sensors report the human ship has stopped moving," reported his tactical officer. "They appear to be waiting for us." Thaxel's yellow eyes narrowed. In his 300 years of military service, he had never encountered an enemy that simply stopped and waited when faced with superior firepower. Usually, species either fled in terror or attacked desperately when confronted by a Zephyrian battle fleet. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. On Earth's Hope, Jake Morrison straightened his uniform and walked to the center of his bridge. Dr. Lisa Carter had managed to establish a working communication link with the alien ships. The main screen flickered to life, showing the reptilian face of the Zephyrian commander. "Human vessel." Thaxel's voice rumbled through the translation system. "You have violated galactic law by leaving your designated containment area. Surrender immediately and prepare to be escorted back to your territory." Jake took a deep breath. Everything humanity had worked for during the past 2 centuries depended on what happened in the next few minutes. He could try to fight, but his single ship faced an entire battle fleet. He could try to run, but the alien ships were faster. Instead, he chose a third option. "Greetings, Commander," Jake replied calmly. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth, Vessel Hope. We come in peace, seeking dialogue and understanding with the galactic community." Thaxel's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of confusion among his species. "You speak of peace while violating our laws. Your kind has been quarantined for good reason. You are violent and unpredictable." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Commander, my name is Dr. Lisa Carter. I am a scientist. During our quarantine period, humanity has made many discoveries that we would like to share with the galaxy. We have developed new medical treatments, clean energy sources, and sustainable farming methods." The alien commander's expression changed. This was not the response he had expected from dangerous humans. "You claim to have made scientific advances, while contained in your small region of space?" "Yes," Carter replied. "We have had much time to study and learn. We discovered several archaeological sites within our territory that belong to ancient civilizations. We learned much from studying their technology and culture. Lieutenant Sam Baker, Earth's Hope's chief engineer, approached the communication station. "Commander, with your permission, I would like to demonstrate something. Our ship's defensive systems are currently being scanned by your vessels. I can show you some improvements we have made to standard shield technology." Before Thaxel could respond, Baker began working at his control panel. On the Zephyrian ships, sensor operators watched in amazement as the human vessel's energy shields suddenly became 30% more efficient. Baker had analyzed their scanning beams and used the feedback to optimize their own defensive systems in real time. "How did you do that?" demanded Thaxel. Baker smiled. "We observed how your sensors interacted with our shields and found ways to improve the energy flow. Your technology gave us ideas for making our systems work better. This is what we mean by cooperation and shared learning." On Centrum Prime, the Emergency Council session continued as reports arrived from the confrontation. High Counselor Vextar read the communication transcripts with growing interest. The humans were not behaving as expected. Instead of showing aggression or fear, they demonstrated curiosity and offered to share knowledge. "This is most unusual," commented Minister Yalaseth. "Our psychological profiles suggested humans would respond to superior force with either violence or submission. They are doing neither." Ambassador Kalara remained unconvinced. "This could be a trick. Humans are clever. They may be trying to appear peaceful while planning something dangerous." Meanwhile, on Earth's Hope, Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including his own crew. "Commander Thaxel, we understand your concerns about our species. Rather than simply telling you that humans have changed, would you be willing to see for yourself? I invite you and a small group of your officers to visit one of our colonies." The Zephyrian bridge fell silent. In the background, other alien commanders on different ships could be heard arguing over their communication channels. Some demanded that Thaxel arrest the humans immediately. Others urged caution and further investigation. Thaxel studied the human captain's face on his screen. In his long military career, he had learned to read the expressions of many different species. What he saw in Jake Morrison's eyes was not deception or hidden aggression. He saw genuine hope and honest curiosity. "This is highly irregular," Thaxel said slowly. "I am a military commander, not a diplomat. Sometimes the best diplomacy comes from soldiers who understand the cost of war," Jake replied. "You have the power to destroy our ship right now. The fact that you are willing to talk instead of shoot tells me you are more than just a warrior," Dr. Carter added. "We have a colony world called New Denver about 2 days' travel from here. It was established on a planet that most species would consider uninhabitable. We would like to show you how humans have learned to work with hostile environments instead of simply conquering them." Thaxel turned to consult with his senior officers. The conversation was brief but heated. Several officers argued that accepting the human invitation would be a sign of weakness. Others pointed out that gathering intelligence about human capabilities was part of their mission. "Very well," Thaxel said when he returned to the communication channel. "I will accompany you to this colony world, but I will bring my own escort ships. Any attempt at deception or aggression will result in immediate military action." Jake nodded. "Understood, Commander. We appreciate your willingness to see what humanity has accomplished during our isolation." As the mixed fleet of human and alien ships changed course toward New Denver, news of this unprecedented cooperation spread across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, government leaders watched the developments with growing amazement. The humans were not behaving according to any known patterns of species behavior. Dr. Carter worked to establish better communication protocols during the journey. She shared basic human cultural information with the aliens and learned about Zephyrian society in return. The exchange of knowledge continued throughout their travels, with both sides discovering that they had more in common than their governments had told them. Lieutenant Baker spent hours answering technical questions from curious alien engineers. His explanations of human problem-solving methods fascinated the Zephyrians, who had always approached challenges through brute force rather than creative adaptation. As they traveled toward New Denver, Jake realized that this first meeting would determine not just his crew's fate, but the future relationship between humanity and the galaxy. He hoped that what the aliens would see on the colony world would convince them that humans deserved a chance to prove themselves as peaceful members of the galactic community. War Commander Thaxel stepped off his shuttle onto the surface of New Denver and immediately understood why this planet had been considered uninhabitable. The air was thin, the gravity was heavy, and the landscape consisted mostly of red rock and sand dunes. According to galactic surveys, this world should have been impossible to colonize without massive terraforming equipment. Instead, he found himself standing in the middle of a thriving city. Rachel Stone, the colony administrator, greeted the alien delegation with a warm smile. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and hands that showed years of hard work. Behind her, the city of New Denver stretched across the desert, its buildings rising like gleaming towers from the red sand. "Welcome to New Denver, Commander," Rachel said. "We're honored to have visitors from the Zephyrian Empire. This is the first time we've hosted aliens since the colony was established 30 years ago." Thaxel looked around in confusion. The city should not exist. His ship's sensors had detected no massive industrial machinery of the type needed to transform a hostile planet. Yet here was a settlement that housed over 50,000 humans, and it appeared to be thriving. "How do you survive here?" he asked bluntly. "Our surveys indicate this planet cannot support advanced life forms." Rachel laughed. "That's what we thought too at first. But humans have a talent for adapting to impossible situations. Would you like to see how we did it?" As they walked through the city streets, Thaxel noticed something remarkable. The buildings were not constructed from imported materials. Instead, they appeared to be grown from the planet's native coral-like organisms. Gardens filled with earth plants grew alongside alien vegetation that had originally been poisonous to humans. "We discovered that the native life forms here weren't hostile to us," Rachel explained. "They were just different. Instead of trying to replace them with earth plants and animals, we learned to work with them." Dr. Ben Cooper, the colony's chief scientist, joined the tour. He was a young man with enthusiastic energy who clearly loved talking about his work. "Commander, would you like to see something amazing? We found ruins on this planet that are over 10,000 years old." Thaxel followed Ben to an archaeological site on the edge of the city. Ancient structures made from unknown materials rose from the desert floor. Human scientists worked alongside alien technology that had been carefully excavated and studied. "The species that built these structures died out long ago," Ben explained. "But they left behind incredible technology. Instead of just taking their machines and trying to copy them, we studied how they worked and learned the principles behind them." Ben showed Thaxel a device that converted the planet's harsh solar radiation into usable energy. The original alien design had been improved by human modifications that made it twice as efficient as the original version. "Your people enhance other species' technology?" Thaxel asked, his voice showing surprise. "We learn from it," Ben replied. "We study how it works, understand the principles, and then find ways to make it work better. Sometimes the original designers were so close to their work that they couldn't see simple improvements." Dr. Lisa Carter, who had accompanied the delegation from Earth's Hope, worked with the colony's communication specialists to share their discoveries with the broader human fleet. Unknown to the Galactic Council, humanity had been making similar breakthroughs on dozens of worlds throughout their quarantine zone. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Burke met with her top advisors in the Situation Room. General Tony Walsh presented reports from across human space, while Science Director Amy Foster shared data about their technological advances. "The colony worlds are exceeding all expectations," Foster reported. "New Denver has developed sustainable fusion power using principles learned from ancient ruins. New Tokyo has created atmospheric processors that actually improve planetary air quality instead of just making it breathable. New Berlin has solved the problem of long-term space travel by developing medical techniques that prevent bone loss and muscle deterioration." President Burke studied the reports. "And our shipyards?" General Walsh smiled. Hidden facilities across 12 star systems have been building vessels for the past 50 years. But these aren't warships, Madam President. They're hospital ships, research vessels, mobile universities, and exploration craft. We've been preparing for peaceful contact with the galaxy. How many ships? Burke asked. Over 800 vessels, of various sizes, all ready for immediate deployment, Walsh replied. Back on New Denver, Thaxel continued his tour of the colony. Rachel Stone brought him to the medical center, where human doctors worked with equipment that seemed impossible, advanced for a quarantined species. Dr. Kevin Park, the chief medical officer, showed Thaxel a device that could heal broken bones, in hours instead of weeks. We developed this by combining human medical knowledge with technology we found in the ruins, he explained. The original builders understood cellular regeneration in ways we never imagined. You could have kept this technology for yourselves, Thaxel observed. Why share it with other colonies? Dr. Park looked puzzled. Why wouldn't we share it? When one human community makes a discovery that can help others, we spread that knowledge as quickly as possible. That's how our species survives and grows. This concept was difficult for Thaxel to understand. In Zephyrian society, technological advantages were closely guarded military secrets. The idea of freely sharing advanced knowledge with others seemed foolish and dangerous. As the day continued, Thaxel witnessed more examples of human ingenuity and cooperation. The colony's engineers had developed new construction techniques that used local materials to build stronger, more efficient structures. Their farmers had created hybrid crops that thrived in the harsh environment, while providing better nutrition than either earth or native plants alone. Most surprising of all was the colony's school, where human children learned alongside young members of several alien species who had been refugees or crash survivors, picked up by human ships over the years. The children played together, learned together, and treated their differences as interesting rather than threatening. That evening, Thaxel joined Rachel Stone for dinner at her home. The meal consisted of foods grown entirely on New Denver, including several dishes that combined Earth and alien ingredients in ways that created entirely new flavors. Commander, Rachel said as they ate, I want you to understand something important about humanity. We're not the violent savages your government believes we are. Yes, we can fight when we need to, but what we really excel at is solving problems and adapting to new situations. Thaxel considered her words. Everything he had seen on New Denver contradicted the reports in his military files. These humans had taken a dead world and made it flourish. They had studied ancient alien technology and improved upon it. They had created a society that welcomed diversity instead of fearing it. Your species confuses me, he admitted. Our intelligence. Reports suggested humans were dangerous and unpredictable. Rachel smiled. We are unpredictable in a way. We don't always do what others expect us to do. When faced with a problem, we look for creative solutions instead of just applying more force. I suppose that could seem dangerous to species that prefer everything to follow established patterns. As news of the successful colony visits spread across the galaxy, the Galactic Council found themselves facing an unprecedented situation. The reports from War Commander Thaxel painted a picture of humanity that contradicted decades of assumptions and fears. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready to accept that they might have been wrong about the quarantined species from Earth. The emergency session of the Galactic Council entered its fourth day, as representatives from 47 different species debated humanity's fate. The Great Chamber on Centrum Prime had seen many heated discussions over the centuries, but nothing quite like this. Reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy, each one adding to the confusion and uncertainty. High Counselor Vextar of the Nexari Collective called for order as voices grew louder. The ancient crystalline being's body glowed brighter when stressed, and right now the chamber was filled with shifting patterns of light from his emotional state. Members of the council, Vextar announced, we have received another report. Human medical ships have arrived at the Kepler 438 system, where the Altarian plague has been killing thousands. The humans claim they have a treatment. Counselor, Rendak of the Zephyrian stood up quickly. His scales were dark red with anger. This is exactly what we feared. The humans are spreading across the galaxy, interfering with natural processes. Who knows what their so-called medical treatment will really do? The treatment works, interrupted Dr. Vera Lynn of the Valdorian Federation. She was one of the galaxy's leading experts on disease and biological warfare. I have reviewed the human medical data. Their approach to treating the Altarian plague is both innovative and effective. They have saved over 30,000 lives in just 2 days. Minister Yalaseth of the Valdorians looked troubled. While we can appreciate the humanitarian value of this action, we must ask ourselves what the humans want in return. No species provides advanced medical aid without expecting something back. Ambassador Kalara of the Zephyrians laughed harshly. Exactly. This is clearly a strategy to make other species dependent on human technology. Once they have established themselves as necessary, they will begin making demands. War Commander Thaxel, who had returned from New Denver just hours earlier, requested permission to speak. The chamber fell silent as he approached the center platform. Everyone knew he had spent time with the humans and his report would carry significant weight. Honored counselors, Thaxel began, I have seen human society with my own eyes. I have walked through their cities, spoken with their leaders, and observed their behavior. What I found challenges everything we believed about this species. He activated a holographic display showing images from New Denver. The alien representatives watched in amazement as scenes of the thriving colony played before them. The humans have taken a dead world and made it bloom, Thaxel continued. They did not do this through brute force or environmental destruction. They studied the planet's natural systems and found ways to work in harmony with them. Counselor Renduck interrupted angrily. You show us their successes, but what about their failures? What about their history of warfare and violence? Thaxel nodded. I asked them about that directly. They do not deny their violent past, but they explained that their capacity for violence comes paired with an equally strong capacity for compassion and cooperation. They told me that the same drives that made them capable of war also make them capable of great acts of healing and creation. On the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Dr. Alex Turner worked alongside scientists from 6 different species. The station had originally been built as a neutral ground for interspecies research, but it had never lived up to its potential due to cultural barriers and mutual distrust. Alex, a quiet man in his 40s with a talent for bringing people together, had arrived 3 days earlier with a team of human researchers. Within hours, he had managed to get alien scientists who had barely spoken to each other for years, working together on shared projects. The key is finding common ground, Alex explained to Dr. Zeph Tell, a Valdorian biochemist. Your people excel at understanding biological systems, while we humans are good at seeing new applications for existing knowledge. When we combine those strengths, we can accomplish things neither of us could do alone. The research station's director, Commander Sultara of the Nixari, watched this cooperation with growing amazement. She had spent decades trying to foster interspecies collaboration with limited success. The humans had achieved in days what she had been unable to accomplish in years. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison commanded a small fleet of human and volunteer alien vessels responding to a distress call from the Outer Rim. A Nexari science vessel had become trapped in the gravity well of a black hole while conducting research. Traditional rescue methods had failed, and the ship was slowly being pulled toward destruction. The gravitational forces are too strong for conventional tractor beams, reported Lieutenant Sam Baker from his engineering station. But I have an idea. If we can coordinate the rescue efforts of all our ships and use the black hole's own gravity to assist us, we might be able to create a slingshot effect. The plan required precise timing and trust between human and alien crews who had never worked together before. Captain Jake spent hours on communication channels explaining the rescue plan to alien commanders who were skeptical about human methods. Thaxel's ship, the Iron Claw, was part of the rescue fleet. The Zephyrian commander found himself taking orders from a human captain, something that would have been unthinkable just a week earlier. All ships, prepare for coordinated engine burn in 3, 2, 1. Execute, Jake commanded. The rescue fleet moved in perfect synchronization. their combined efforts creating a gravitational wave that pulled the trapped Nexari ship free from the black hole's grip. The successful rescue was broadcast across the galaxy, showing what cooperation between species could achieve. Back in the council chambers, reports of the rescue operation were just arriving. The youngest member of the council, Representative Kethani of the recently spacefaring Kethani species, stood to address the assembly. "Honored councilors," the young alien said in a clear voice. "I have been listening to this debate for 4 days. I have heard fears about human unpredictability and concerns about their rapid technological advancement. But I have also heard reports of humans saving lives, sharing knowledge, and working alongside our people as equals." The chamber grew quiet as the young representative continued. "My people have only recently joined the galactic community. We were welcomed because the council believed we could contribute to galactic civilization. But looking at these reports about humans, I see a species that has more to offer than most of us combined." Representative Kethani paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled alien leaders. "I must ask a difficult question. What if we have been the ones afraid of growth and change? What if humans represent the evolution that we all need, but have been too frightened to pursue?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. For generations, the Galactic Council had operated on principles of caution, stability, and controlled growth. They had created a civilization that was safe and predictable, but also stagnant and limited. High Counselor Vextar's crystalline body shifted through several colors as he processed the young representative's words. "You suggest that our fear of human unpredictability is actually fear of change itself?" "Yes," Representative Kethani replied. "From what I have observed, humans do not seek to destroy or conquer. They seek to grow, to learn, and to improve. These are qualities that our civilization has been lacking." Ambassador Kalara stood up angrily. "This is exactly what I warned about. The humans have been free for less than a week, and already they are turning our own people against us." But her words carried less weight than before. Too many council members had seen the reports from New Denver, from the research station, and from the successful rescue operation. The evidence was mounting that humanity might not be the threat they had long believed it to be. As the debate continued, a new question began to emerge. If humans were not the dangerous species they had been portrayed as, then what did that say about the wisdom of the council that had kept them quarantined for over 2 centuries? The implications of this question would reshape the galaxy's future. 1 month after the first human ship crossed the quarantine boundary, President Helen Burke stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Unity as it approached Centrum Prime. Through the viewing windows, she could see the massive space station that had served as the center of galactic government for over 1,000 years. Today, that government would change forever. The Unity was unlike any ship that had ever docked at Centrum Prime. Built through cooperation between human engineers and alien scientists who had volunteered to work with them, it represented a new approach to spacecraft design. The ship combined the best features of multiple species technologies while adding human innovations that made it faster, more efficient, and more comfortable than any vessel in the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as Burke's military advisor, stood beside her as they watched the docking procedures. "Are you nervous, Madam President?" he asked quietly. Burke smiled. "Terrified," she admitted, "but also hopeful. We have a chance to change everything today." In the great chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species waited for the formal ceremonies to begin. The past month had seen more changes in galactic society than the previous century. Human ships had responded to disasters, shared technology, and offered assistance to any species that asked for help. The pattern was always the same. Humans would arrive, solve problems through creative cooperation, and ask for nothing in return except the chance to learn and grow. High Counselor Vexitar called the assembly to order. His crystalline body glowed with calm blue light, a sign that the ancient Nexari had found peace with the momentous decision they were about to make. "Members of the council," Vextar announced, "after extensive deliberation and observation, we have reached a unanimous decision regarding the status of humanity within galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent. Representatives from every major species watched as the ancient counselor prepared to announce humanity's fate. The quarantine zone established around human space in 2156 is hereby dissolved, Vextar declared. Humanity is invited to join the Galactic Council as full members with all the rights and responsibilities that status entails. Cheers erupted from several sections of the chamber, particularly from younger representatives who had been impressed by human actions over the past month. However, not everyone was celebrating. Ambassador Kalara of the Zephyrians sat in stony silence, her scales dark with displeasure. President Burke entered the chamber accompanied by representatives from Earth's diverse nations and colonies. She had chosen her delegation carefully, including scientists, doctors, engineers, and diplomats who represented the best of human civilization. Dr. Lisa Carter walked beside her, carrying data crystals containing humanity's accumulated knowledge from their quarantine period. Honored counselors, Burke began as she approached the central platform, humanity accepts your invitation with humility and gratitude. We recognize that trust must be earned, and we are prepared to prove ourselves worthy of membership in this great galactic community. She gestured to her delegation. We come not as conquerors or competitors, but as students and partners. We bring our knowledge and our willingness to learn, hoping to contribute to the continued growth and prosperity of all civilized species. War Commander Thaxel, who had requested permission to serve as a cultural liaison between humans and Zephyrians, stood to address the assembly. His presence at the ceremony had surprised many, as traditional Zephyrian military officers rarely involved themselves in diplomatic functions. I have had the privilege of observing human society firsthand, Thaxel declared. What I discovered challenged every assumption I held about this species. They possess the same capacity for violence that concerns some council members, but they channel that strength into protection, healing, and creation rather than conquest. The formal signing of the Galactic Cooperation Accords took place before the assembled representatives. The new agreements established principles that went far beyond simple diplomatic relations. They created frameworks for shared research, mutual assistance, and collaborative exploration that would reshape how species interacted throughout the galaxy. Dr. Carter was among the first to sign the scientific cooperation treaties. These accords will allow us to share the discoveries we made during our isolation, she announced. Ancient technologies, medical advances, and engineering innovations that can benefit every member species. The signing ceremony continued for hours as various treaties and agreements were formalized. Trade agreements that emphasized fair exchange rather than exploitation. Military cooperation pacts focused on protection and rescue rather than aggression. Cultural exchange programs designed to foster understanding between different species. Perhaps the most significant agreement was the establishment of the Galactic Exploration Initiative. Captain Jake Morrison accepted command of the starship Harmony, the first vessel designed and built through true interspecies cooperation. Its mission was to explore beyond the galaxy's edge, seeking new civilizations to invite into the growing galactic community. The old model of expansion through conquest and subjugation has failed, Jake announced as he accepted his commission. We will explore not as invaders, but as ambassadors of peace and cooperation. The Harmony itself was a marvel of engineering. Human creativity had been combined with Nixari wisdom, Zephyrian strength, and Valdorian biological expertise to create a ship capable of journeys no single species could have attempted alone. Months later, the changes brought by humanity's integration into galactic society were visible everywhere. The research station at Proxima Centauri had become a model for interspecies cooperation, with Dr. Alex Turner serving as its director. Scientists from every council member species worked together on projects that would have been impossible. Under the old system of isolation and suspicion, War Commander Thaxel found himself serving as the first director of the Joint Military Academy, a revolutionary institution that trained officers from multiple species to work together. The Academy's mission was not conquest, but protection of trade routes, disaster relief, and rescue operations. We have learned that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the ability to build and protect, Thaxel told his first class of interspecies cadets. On New Denver, Rachel Stone welcomed the first official alien colonists to settle alongside the human population. The colony that had started as an experiment in adaptation had become a symbol of what different species could accomplish when they worked together rather than in competition. The transformation was not limited to official government programs. Across the galaxy, human merchants, doctors, teachers, and engineers worked alongside alien colleagues in ways that had been unimaginable just months earlier. The rigid species barriers that had defined galactic civilization for millennia began to dissolve. President Burke established her administration's headquarters on Centrum Prime, becoming the first human to permanently reside at the center of galactic government. Her office windows looked out on a view that included ships from dozens of different species, all working together in the busy space around the station. The story concluded with a scene that would have been impossible just a year earlier. In a classroom on Centrum Prime, human children sat alongside young aliens from 6 different species. They worked together on a project to design a new type of starship, combining ideas from all their cultures and technologies. Their teacher, a wise Nixari elder named Instructor Veltar, watched with satisfaction as the next generation embraced possibilities their parents had never imagined. The children argued good-naturedly about design features, shared their different perspectives on space travel, and learned from each other's unique approaches to problem-solving. In the back of the classroom, a large window showed the view of space beyond the station. Ships of every design moved through the void, carrying passengers and cargo between worlds that had once been isolated by fear and suspicion. The galaxy that had once been divided by species barriers had become a true community, united by shared purpose and mutual respect. The Galactic Council's greatest fear had become the galaxy's greatest strength. Human unpredictability had transformed into the driving force for positive change, adaptation, and growth that would carry galactic civilization to new heights among the stars.